Hello everybody, or moin as we say up here in northern Germany. We spent the last couple of days building the drive shaft. As you may remember, we have had this gear that Thorsten machined down, and here he took that piece and welded it on to the tube that we bought. Then we had this piece of drive shaft from the old tractor, which we cut off, and here you can see Thorsten putting it into the lathe and adjusting it so he could machine it down, put it into the tube, and yeah, we'll basically weld it on. You see him machining so it gets the right diameter and fit into the tube. What he is doing here is he's making a center hole into that piece of shaft so he can actually get it from the other side or from both ends so it will run straight. This is nothing spectacular, but for people who are not familiar with lathe work, this might look a bit funny with a piece of material actually spinning while the drill is standing still. Yeah, you can see it. He's centering the shaft with that little pin from the other end. Yeah, here we had it machined down. The thing actually was that the shaft was too small for the tube, so we had to actually weld on to get a bigger diameter.
Kann er leider nur 140 Ampere. Bei dem Glühkopf passiert das eigentlich fast nicht.
Some may wonder why we actually stick welded it, but actually we only have a TIG and stick welding machine at the moment. The other one's broken. But on the other hand, stick welding is, while it's still a mess, it's actually a very good way to weld things without having any troubles. So after we had material put on, we had to machine it back down and get a good fit into the tube.
Kann man doch fast nicht meckern, oder? So. Keine Einschlüsse und nichts dran.
Here we are discussing whether we should put some more welds on it, and he says it's not necessary, we just need this as a guide, and for that it's more than sufficient.
Auf dem Rohr, genau, eine Führung. Schmeißen wir einmal vorne rum zu und bohren hier noch dreimal an und machen so eine Stelle nochmal. Da dreht das auf mehreren Stellen. Dann hast du nicht nur vorne die Naht.
Ja. So, wir gehen mal rüber ins Rohr. Thorsten wird das jetzt verschweißen. Frage war, warum ist es denn so dünn?
Thorsten is about to weld this now. Some people ask why it's such a thin tube. Actually, it's the diameter that matters, and this is a 63mm tube. So we had calculated it, and it's more than twice as strong as it has to be. This is the ends where it will go in between. You can see a little aluminum ring there on the front, so it can't move. We actually had to pull the engines back a little bit. Here's a little view what has happened also. Actually, I still didn't get my aluminum fittings, but we got side shields and the intake shielding. Yeah, the intake for the turbocharger is done here. This will also hold a restrictor. There's the turbo shielding, still work to do. And here we go over to Thorsten and see how he's actually welding the piece of shaft into the tube.
Die dreht wesentlich langsamer.
Dann kann noch ein kleiner Kiel.
Yeah, as you can see, the shaft fit in, spins very nicely. We got it very straight, so we're quite happy about this. And now we try to demonstrate what we've thought out how to put it in. So put it back on the end, move the coupler to the front, which usually keeps getting stuck, bit of a hassle, but yeah, it works. So that's it. Here we go. These screws here, or those bolts, actually hold the shaft in place so it can't move. And that way it stays where it should stay. This is another day. I had to go to my father's 66th birthday, so I just stopped by for a short moment while the rest of the team was working hard. Thorsten had already finished this mounting for the shielding on both ends. In the background you just saw Malle working. Here's our engineer, Kai-Uwe, that's the guy who drew everything. And he had built a new battery holder. And yeah, here's Malle again, figuring out what I had figured last week already, that the fittings don't have the right thread size.
Ja, ist richtig, ja, ja. Haben wir schon durch. Ist alles in Ordnung. Ja, so habe ich da vor 3 Tagen gesessen.
You can see the very nice battery mount. As you can see, there's got little edges on the side, so this will hold a cross member that will go into the chassis. And here Malle and Thorsten fit the tube to the housing. This is yet another day. I was working on the throttle brackets, and Thorsten put some plastic liners into the aluminum shielding around the drive shaft.
Komm, wir schauen mal, was wir da machen. Thorsten baut Plastikringe rein. Ach Gott. So, da ist jetzt ein Plastik.
You can see there's this plastic liner there that holds the middle piece of tube straight into the outer piece, and we got this thing going on both ends.
Gaspinne sind drin.
Yeah, this is actually the little pins that I put in, linkages for the throttle. And Thorsten, as usual, back on his lathe working. I had to cut this piece of tube to the right length. Yeah, as I said, Thorsten and his lathe. He had already put some helicoils into the aluminum, but with that plastic he had to drill another hole. Put a tap in there so we can put screws in. These screws actually center the tubes and keep them in place.
Erstmal stecken wir jetzt die Schrauben rein, markieren das an.
Das ist ein Musterkist, okay.
Genau, und dann bohre ich das auf Bestand.
This is the test of the aluminum shielding, whether everything fits and get the last dimensions. But as you can see here, everything fit well. Looks nice. I'm happy with that. As we decided that everything looks nice and fits well, we took it back out. And that was basically it for the day. Yeah, that's me again, giving you a short overview of what had happened last week. So as you can see, the shielding is in. We got those plastic inserts, also the 3 screws that hold the inner tube in place. You can see the plastic very well. Same here. So the other things we had done was actually the oil supply for the turbochargers, the drain line of the turbochargers. Wastegate is still off, so the turbo shieldings, which are still raw here, have to be done next week. Yeah, and what we got here? Ah yeah, the fittings, or the adapters to put the charger tube in has to be done next week. This is the throttle linkage that we will also do next week. And as you can see, it's already moving the handle. So just a few pieces missing, and we are ready for the next step. That's the battery the bracket breaks. And somebody stepped on my wires here, so I have to redo them again.
Und ansonsten, ja, Seitenbleche, ne? Tanks, die Scheißarbeit, aber das...
That was it for now. Hope you liked it. And see you soon.
Da ist er, ich sag
Bye.
Tschüss und bis zum nächsten Mal.